Hey there, it's Jessica, and welcome back to the English Pro podcast. Have you ever been in a conversation where you knew exactly what you wanted to say, but somehow it took you forever to get your point across? You're stumbling over words, repeating yourself, and the other person is just waiting for you to finish? Yeah, I've been there too, and it's frustrating. Let me tell you about something that happened to me last week. I was at a coffee shop, and I wanted to ask the barista to change my order. Simple, right? But instead of just saying, "Could you make that iced instead?" I went into this whole explanation about how I originally wanted hot coffee, but then realized it was a warm day, and I was feeling like something cold would be better, and maybe ice would be nice. The poor guy just stood there nodding while I basically told him my life story about a simple drink change. That's when I realized something important. Speaking efficiently isn't about speaking fast or using fewer words. It's about being clear, direct, and getting your message across without confusing yourself or the other person. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to speak efficiently in English. I'll share some practical phrases and techniques that will help you communicate your ideas clearly and confidently, without all the unnecessary fluff. Trust me, once you start speaking more efficiently, your conversations will flow so much better. Why speaking efficiently matters. You know what I've noticed? Many English learners think that using more words makes them sound more fluent or more intelligent. But actually, the opposite is true. When you speak efficiently, you sound confident, clear, and professional. Native speakers appreciate it when you get to the point quickly. Here's the thing. In English-speaking cultures, especially in business settings, people value direct communication. If you take too long to make your point, people might lose interest or get confused about what you're trying to say. I remember when I first started teaching, I would over-explain everything. My students would get this glazed look in their eyes, and I realized I was losing them with too many words. The problem is that when we're learning a language, we often feel like we need to prove ourselves by using complex sentences or explaining every detail. But efficient communication is actually a sign of advanced language skills. It shows that you understand not just the words, but how to use them effectively. Essential phrases for efficient speaking. Let me share some phrases that will help you communicate more efficiently. These are expressions I use all the time, and they'll help you get your point across quickly and clearly. When you want to get straight to the point, you can say, "The bottom line is." This means you're cutting through all the details and giving the most important information. For example, instead of explaining all the reasons why a project is behind schedule, you might say, "The bottom line is we need 2 more weeks to finish this properly." Here's another one I love. In a nutshell. This means you're giving a very brief summary of something complex. You might say, "In a nutshell, the meeting went well, and they approved our proposal." It's perfect when someone asks you about something, but you don't want to give them every single detail. When you want to emphasize your main point, try, "What I'm trying to say is." This is great when you feel like you're being unclear or when you want to clarify your message. Like this. "What I'm trying to say is that we should focus on quality over quantity." You can also use "to put it simply" when you want to explain something in the easiest way possible. For example, "To put it simply, we need more time and more people to make this work." Here's one that's super useful. Long story short. This means you're skipping the details and getting to the result or conclusion. You might say, "Long story short, I missed my flight but got on the next one and still made it to the meeting on time." Another phrase I use constantly is, "The key point is." This helps you highlight the most important information. For example, "The key point is that we need to make a decision by Friday." When you want to be very direct, you can say, "I'll be straight with you." This means you're going to be honest and direct. Like this, "I'll be straight with you. This project is more challenging than we expected." Personal examples and real situations. Let me tell you about a time when these phrases really saved me. I was in a meeting with my boss, and she asked me about a problem we were having with a client. Instead of giving her the whole complicated backstory, I said, "The bottom line is the client wants to change the deadline, and we need to decide if we can accommodate that." She appreciated that I got straight to the point, and we were able to solve the problem quickly. I remember another situation where I was explaining a grammar concept to a student, and I could see they were getting overwhelmed. So I stopped and said, "Let me put it simply. When you're talking about the past, use the past tense. When you're talking about now, use the present tense." Sometimes the most efficient communication is the simplest communication. Here's something that happens to me all the time. A friend asks me how my day was, and I start telling them about every little thing that happened. But now I've learned to say, "Long story short, it was a good day with a few challenges, but I handled them well. It gives them the information they want without overwhelming them with details. The key is knowing your audience and the situation. If you're talking to your boss about a serious problem, the bottom line is, works perfectly. If you're chatting with a friend, long story short, might be better. You need to read the situation and choose the right level of efficiency, putting it all together. Now, let me show you how these phrases work together in a real conversation. Imagine you're talking to a colleague about a project update. Instead of saying, well, we started the project last month and we've been working really hard on it, and there have been some challenges and some successes, and I think overall we're making progress, but there are still some things we need to work on. You could say, the key point is we're making good progress on the project. We've completed the first phase, but the bottom line is we need another week to finish the testing. What I'm trying to say is we're on track, just with a small delay. See how much clearer that is? You've given the same information, but in a way that's easy to follow and understand. Your colleague knows exactly what's happening and what they need to know. Here's another example. Let's say someone asks you about your weekend plans. Instead of explaining every detail, you might say, in a nutshell, I'm planning to relax at home, maybe watch some movies, and catch up with friends. Long story short, it's going to be a nice, quiet weekend. The beautiful thing about speaking efficiently is that it actually makes conversations more enjoyable for everyone. People can follow what you're saying, they stay engaged, and you feel more confident because you're communicating clearly. Practical application. So where can you practice these phrases? Let me give you some real-life scenarios where efficient speaking is really important. At work, when your boss asks for an update, instead of explaining every detail of what you did, try starting with the bottom line is, and give them the result first. Then you can add details if they ask for them. When you're shopping and need to return something, don't explain your whole story. Just say, I'll be straight with you. This didn't work for me, and I'd like to return it. It's polite, but direct. If a friend asks you about a movie you saw, instead of summarizing the entire plot, try, in a nutshell, it's a romantic comedy about two people who meet at work. Long story short, it's worth watching if you like that genre. When you're giving directions, use the key point is to highlight the most important turns or landmarks. Like this. The key point is to turn left at the big intersection with the traffic light. You'll see the building on your right. Here's a mini dialogue to show you how this works. How was your job interview? The bottom line is, it went really well. What I'm trying to say is I think I have a good chance of getting the job. In a nutshell, they liked my experience and I felt comfortable with the team. Practice these phrases in low-pressure situations first. Use them when you're talking to yourself or when you're having casual conversations with friends. The more you practice, the more natural they'll become. Let me quickly recap what we've covered today. We talked about why speaking efficiently matters. It makes you sound confident and helps people understand you better. We learned some key phrases like, the bottom line is, in a nutshell, and what I'm trying to say is, that help you get your point across quickly and clearly. And we looked at how to use these phrases in real conversations. The most important thing to remember is that efficient speaking isn't about using fewer words. It's about using the right words to communicate your message clearly. Don't worry if it feels awkward at first. Like any new skill, it takes practice. Remember, every time you practice speaking more efficiently, you're building your confidence and improving your communication skills. You're not just learning English, you're learning to communicate like a pro. If you learned at least one new thing in today's episode, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us reach more English learners like you, and you'll never miss an episode. This is Jessica, and you've been listening to the English Pro Podcast. See you in the next episode.